Hello me lovelies. Well, I've felt the need to do this video concerning the tragic death of Bronson Battersby, the avoidable death of Bronson Battersby, the 2-year-old who was found deceased next to his father who had died of a heart attack. Now, I'm doing this because this piece has absolutely annoyed me what it says right at the end, but what I'll do is I'll read through it to let you know. The inquest has been done. And I mean, it's found what is obviously died of dehydration. Anyone could work that out. A toddler was found curled up between his father's legs after dying of dehydration, an inquest heard. The body of Bronson Battersby, 2, was discovered on January 9th next to his father Kenneth, who is believed to have suffered a heart attack after he was last seen alive on Boxing Day. On January 2nd, a social worker visited the family home in Skegness, Lincolnshire, as part of a routine visit, but received no reply, so contacted the police. The worker went back to the house on January 4th, but again heard no response, so contacted the police one more time. The father and son were not found until 5 days later, when the social worker used a key from the landlord to enter their home. The inquest heard that Bronson went to live with his father following the separation of his parents in the summer of 2022, while his 2 siblings lived with his mother. Detective Inspector Claire Rimmer of Lincolnshire Police told the Coroner's Court how police received a call from a concerned neighbour who hadn't seen Kenneth and reported a smell coming from the flat. Coroner's Officer Tracy Cox confirmed that Bronson's post-mortem examination showed that he died of dehydration. Senior Coroner Paul Smith, who opened the case in Lincoln, adjourned the inquest to a provisional date of December 10th, while a thorough and sensitive investigation into the 2 deaths takes place. Kenneth was unemployed and had a pre-existing heart condition which had caused him to become severely jaundiced in the months leading up to his death. Bronson was also classified as vulnerable by social services, meaning he required weekly visits from workers. Heather Sandy, Executive Director of Children's Services at Lincolnshire County Council, said in January, "This was a tragic incident and we are supporting the family at this difficult time. We are carrying out a review of the case alongside partner agencies to better understand the circumstances, and we await the results of the coroner's investigations as well. Our thoughts are with the family and friends of those involved. It is understood that the social worker has not been suspended but has been voluntarily taking time off." That bit at the end, "it is understood that the social worker has not been suspended but has voluntarily taken time off." That is the part of that report that has really annoyed me, because I can assure you the social worker did absolutely everything that they should have done and were expected to do. And they passed each time, after making their own inquiries, onto the police. Now, I've explained this in the previous video I did months ago when this tragedy first came out into the public domain, news of it. When you have a situation like that and social workers report that they can't get in touch with someone, especially a vulnerable individual, and don't forget, Bronson was considered a child in vulnerable circumstances, the police have to record that as a missing person report. Now, I worked for the police, and I can tell you now, it was always stressed on us, if you're going to get in serious trouble over anything, it's if you mess up a missing persons report. And there's various reasons for that. But when you'd go on duty, very first thing you'd have to do is get an update from who you were taking over on the inquiries they'd made. You had to phone hospitals, phone socials, everywhere you had to phone, family members to find out if there'd been any news about them. And you had to update the system to say that these inquiries had been done. Now, that was before you did any work. You had to do that. And you'd usually get a senior officer coming down and actually checking that you'd done them. That's how serious it was considered. They'd check that it had been done, because they could get in trouble as well if they hadn't checked on you. And this was done, I say, every time someone took over. So you'd get it being done 3 times in one day. When the social worker did that, that's what should have happened. It didn't happen. It didn't only happen once. It didn't happen twice. And they only took notice when a neighbour phoned up and said they could get a smell. Now, what the police should have done is, the minute the social worker reported that, an officer should have been designated to call out the address and tried to get a response. And the officer should have gone round asking people if they'd seen them. And if there was serious doubts about the safety of the child, they should have broken into the house. They have the legal right to do that. None of that happened. So why the paper saying the social worker has not been suspended, I don't know, because there's no way you would suspend them. The social worker did everything that was required. It's the police that messed this up. And I know people have said, hey, what about the mother and all this? Yeah, I'm no fan of the mother. Believe me, I'm no fan of the mother. She is absolutely horrendous the way she carried on. Totally no interest in contacting the child to see how he was over Christmas and New Year. But at the end of the day, the police are paid when they're told about a situation where a vulnerable child can't be found, to do the job. That's what they're paid for. So the blame lays with them. Sadly, people have bad parents. That's not an excuse then to say that the police can get off with not doing their job. But I thought I'd point this out because it was so annoying when I read that. I thought, no, don't go blaming. Or not blaming, it's not that they were blaming, but the fact that they mentioned that the social worker wasn't suspended, I thought, well, why should they be suspended? They've done absolutely nothing wrong, so it was a pointless thing to put in there. But Teresa, the one, and it's gone to the IOPCC, the police watchdog, apparently. I wouldn't hold out much hope there, because I tell you now, people go on about Masonic lodges and the police being in Masonic lodges. I've always said they don't need to be in Masonic lodges. The IOPCC and their own federations are basically their own self-made huge Masonic lodges. So I'll leave it at that, my lovelies. Bye bye for now.